In a quiet village at the edge of the forest lived an elder named Kofi. Kofi was rich. He had gold, cloth, and fine tools, but he was kind. He lived in a large house made of warm clay and shady trees. Every morning, Kofi sat in the courtyard. He watched the sunrise. He invited his helper, Amma, to join him. Amma was humble and soft-spoken. She brought tea in a little clay cup. She smiled at Kofi. She worked quietly and well. No praise, no complaint. Kofi trusted Amma with his keys, his wood, his small treasures. But he wondered, was that trust wise? Could he be sure of honesty? He watched Amma for many days. She never touched anything that was not hers. Still, Kofi's heart was unsure. The sun set. The fire burned low. Tomorrow, Kofi said to himself, tomorrow I will test her. Amma left the courtyard at dusk, and that night, Kofi thought about trust in the quiet house. He left the safe open before he slept. What would happen in the morning?
The rooster crowed loudly in the village. The sky was still gray, and the air was cool. Amma woke before the first drum of the morning. She tied her wrapper around her waist, washed her face with water from a clay pot, and sang a soft song her mother taught her. Her life was simple. She worked in Kofi's house and helped her younger brother in the evenings. She had no gold, no silver, not even fine cloth. But she had two things, her hands and her honesty. Amma walked to the elder's house. The path was quiet except for birds calling in the trees. She carried her small basket with broom, cloth, and calabash for water. When she reached the gate, she greeted the house spirits under her breath, as was the custom. She opened the gate and stepped into the wide courtyard. The house was still silent. Elder Kofi had not yet come out. Amma went to the kitchen to sweep. She moved the broom slowly so as not to disturb anyone sleeping. She boiled water and placed a small pot of yam on the fire. After this, she went to clean the main room. It was then she saw it. The safe. The heavy wooden chest with iron locks, standing against the wall. Its mouth was open. Inside, Amma saw bright things, gold, cowries, and strings of beads. The safe had never been left like this before. Amma froze. Her heart beat fast. Her eyes looked around the room. No one was there. She stepped closer. Her mind whispered to her, just one bead, Amma. Just one bead. Who will know? You are poor. You work every day. Is it not fair to take a little for yourself? But another voice came, strong and quiet inside her. It is not yours. If you take it, your hands will never be clean. Even if no eyes see you, the spirits will see you. Amma stepped back. She covered her face with her hands. Her stomach felt hot with fear. She sat on a stool and breathed deeply. The chest was still open, shining like the sun. Amma thought of her little brother, who wanted new sandals for the dry season. She thought of her own wrapper, torn at the edges. She thought of hunger on days when food was not enough. Her fingers trembled. She pressed them together and whispered, "No. If I suffer, let me suffer clean. What is not mine cannot bring me joy." Amma looked around for something to cover the chest. She found a piece of cloth and placed it gently over the opening. She turned her face away and went back to her sweeping. But her heart did not rest. She did not know the elder was awake in his room. He was watching. He had seen everything. Kofi's old eyes were sharp. He wanted to know if Amma's honesty was true when no one was looking. Now he had his answer. But he did not speak. Not yet. He wanted to see more. The sun climbed higher. The house began to stir with life. Amma continued her work, refusing to look at the chest again. But in her heart, she was heavy with questions. Why was the safe open? Did the elder forget? Or was it a trick? She did not know the test had only just begun. Elder Kofi lay on his raffia mat inside his room. He had not slept much during the night. Before the moon rose, he had left the safe wide open, his heart heavy with thoughts. He wanted to know if Amma, the young helper, was truly as honest as she seemed. He was not a man who loved tricks, but age had taught him that the heart of a person is hidden until tested. Many times in the past, Kofi had trusted people who later betrayed him. A cousin once stole his goats. A traitor once cheated him with fake cowries. Even a friend he had known since boyhood took land that was not his. Each wound left Kofi more cautious, more watchful. But Amma was different. Since she came into his house, she had worked quietly, never complaining, never asking for more. She rose before the cock crow, swept every corner, fetched water, and cooked with patience. Even when tired, she carried herself with dignity. Kofi often told himself, "This girl has the heart of her mother." Still, doubt is like a shadow that follows a man even when the sun is bright. So he planned the test. He wanted to see if Amma's honesty was true when no one was watching. That morning, Kofi rose before her. He hid behind the thin curtain of his doorway, where he could see the safe clearly. When Amma entered, she did not know his old eyes were watching her every step. Kofi saw her stop in shock when she noticed the safe. He saw her move closer, then step back. He saw her hands tremble as if her heart pulled her in two directions. He heard her whisper words, though he could not catch all of them. But he saw her face, serious, troubled, but strong. She covered the safe with cloth and turned away. Kofi's chest filled with both relief and sorrow. Relief because Amma did not take what was not hers. Sorrow because he saw the hunger in her eyes before she looked away. He knew her brother walked barefoot. He knew her own wrapper was worn thin. Yet still she refused. He thought, "This girl is different. She carries fire in her belly but water in her hands." The morning stretched on. Amma swept the floor with steady strokes, fetched firewood, and stirred the pot on the fire. She greeted him when he finally stepped out, her face calm though her heart still held questions. "Good morning, Elder," she said softly, bowing her head. "Good morning, Amma," Kofi replied, hiding his thoughts behind his beard. He said nothing of the chest. He only ate the yam she placed before him and watched as she served him water. But inside him, a storm of thoughts was growing. One test was not enough. He wanted to be sure. He would watch her again. That night, as the crickets sang and the moon climbed high, Elder Kofi made a new plan. Amma, without knowing it, would face more trials before her truth was revealed. The next day, Elder Kofi set his plan again. He took a small leather pouch filled with cowries, tied it loosely, and placed it where Amma would surely see it, on the edge of the water jar in the courtyard. Then he went to sit under the irako tree, pretending to nap while his eyes stayed half open. Amma entered the courtyard with her calabash to fetch water. She saw the pouch at once. It looked as if it had fallen by mistake, left behind by careless hands. She picked it up slowly, feeling the weight. Her eyes widened. It was heavy with cowries, enough to buy food for many days. Again, her mind began to whisper, "Take it! No one will know. This must be the blessing you have prayed for." Her stomach growled as if in agreement. But then she shook her head. "No," she whispered to herself. "If I take what is not mine, it will burn my pocket. Let me return it." She carried the pouch to Kofi and bowed. "Elder, I found this beside the water jar. Maybe it fell." Kofi looked at her. His face was calm, but inside him joy was rising. He took the pouch and nodded. "Well done, Amma. You are careful." Amma smiled faintly and went back to her work. But again, she wondered, why are such things happening? Why are treasures appearing before me like fallen fruit? She did not know that her master's eyes were testing her step by step. Word began to move in the village about Amma. Some women noticed she never wore new cloth, though she worked in the house of a wealthy elder. That girl is foolish," one woman whispered at the market. "She lives in riches but still looks poor." Another laughed. "Maybe she steals and hides it. Who knows what people do when no one is looking?" But an old woman sitting by the fire shook her head. "No, I have watched Amma. Her hands are clean. When she passes, the wind itself respects her." Amma heard some of the whispers. They cut her heart, but she kept silent. She told herself, "My worth is not in what they say. My worth is in what I do when the spirits are watching." Kofi too heard the market talk, but he said nothing. He wanted to see if Amma's honesty was only for people's eyes, or if it lived deep inside her, even when the world doubted. One hot afternoon, Kofi left a golden bracelet on the low stool in the sitting room. It was bright, shining like the sun, the kind of thing young women in the village longed to wear during festivals. Amma came in carrying a broom. She stopped when she saw the bracelet. Her hand paused in the air. She had never worn gold. For a moment, she imagined it on her wrist, glowing against her skin. She smiled at the thought, then quickly looked away. She touched the bracelet, but only to move it carefully onto a higher shelf. Then she covered it with a cloth so it would not tempt her eyes again. Later that evening, Kofi entered and saw what she had done. He stroked his beard slowly. The girl had not only refused the bracelet, but she had also hidden it from sight so temptation would not linger. This made him respect her even more. But still, he was not yet satisfied. He wanted to test her heart in something deeper than gold or cowries. He wanted to see what she would do if faced with hunger. A week later, Kofi prepared the hardest test. He told Amma that he would be traveling to the next village for 3 days. He gave her only a small measure of yam and a little groundnut oil, far less than what she usually cooked. "Make it last until I return," he said. Amma bowed and accepted. When he left, her brother came to visit. The boy was thin, his ribs showing. His eyes looked at the yam hungrily. Amma's heart broke. She knew the food was not enough for them both. Her stomach already ached with emptiness, but she pushed the plate toward him. "Eat, my brother," she said softly. "I will be fine." For 2 days, Amma drank water and chewed only a little roasted groundnut. Her body grew weak, but her heart stayed steady. When Kofi returned, he saw her thin face and her brother's fuller cheeks. He knew at once what had happened. This test shook him more than any other. Gold and cowries could be refused. But to give food when one is hungry, that was true honesty, true sacrifice. Kofi sat quietly by the fire that night. He whispered to himself, "This girl is not just honest. She carries the spirit of righteousness. She must not remain only a servant in my house. She is more than that." But Amma, tired and unaware of his thoughts, lay on her mat and slept, never knowing her life was about to change. The night after the hunger test, Elder Kofi could not sleep. He turned on his mat, listening to the crickets sing outside. The image of Amma sharing food with her brother filled his mind. He thought of all the people he had known in his long years. Many had failed him. But this young woman, who had so little, had given her last yam to her brother without fear or regret. Kofi rose before dawn and walked into the courtyard. He looked up at the sky, the stars fading as light crept in. He whispered a prayer to the ancestors. "Guide me. Show me what to do with this child who carries truth in her hands." By the time Amma came out to sweep, Kofi had made a decision. He would no longer test her with tricks. He would reveal his heart and see what path she would choose. Later that morning, Kofi called Amma to the sitting room. She came, bowing her head. On the floor beside him was a big wooden chest. Amma had never seen this chest before. It was different from the safe. Its carvings were deep, with strange marks of animals and moons. "Amma," Kofi said slowly, "this chest has been in my family for many years. Inside it lies something precious." Amma's eyes widened. She did not move closer. Kofi pointed to it. "I will leave it here in your care. Do not open it. Do not move it. Guard it well. When I return from my journey, I will ask you what you saw." Amma bowed. "Yes, Elder." Her voice was steady, though her heart was curious. For 3 days, the chest sat in the corner of the room. It seemed to whisper every time she passed. "Open me. Look inside. Just one glance. No one will know." But Amma did not touch it. She cleaned the room, fetched water, cooked food, and prayed beside her mat. The chest remained untouched, silent under her watch. When Kofi returned, he asked, "Amma, what did you see in the chest?" She replied softly, "Elder, I saw nothing. I did not open it." Kofi's eyes shone. He nodded. "Good." Then he unlocked the chest before her eyes. Inside was not gold, not beads, but dried kola nuts, ancient charms, and an old cloth belonging to his father. He smiled. "You have guarded my family's spirit well. This test is complete." But outside Kofi's house, the village was buzzing. Some people grew jealous when they saw how Kofi treated Amma. They noticed he spoke kindly to her, trusted her, and gave her tasks others had never been given. One woman at the stream said, "And don't you see? The old man favors that girl too much. Maybe she has bewitched him." Another laughed bitterly. Bewitched? Or perhaps she steals in secret and hides her riches. Do you think any servant can be so clean? But an old hunter shook his head. Young tongues are too quick. That girl is different. I have seen her carry firewood for widows without pay. I have seen her give food to orphans. Keep your eyes open before you speak. Amma heard some of the gossip, but she held her peace. She told herself, the river does not stop flowing because dogs bark by the bank. She kept working, her hands steady, her heart calm. Kofi too heard the words, but he smiled quietly. He knew the truth would speak for itself in time. One night, as Kofi slept, he had a strange dream. He found himself walking in a forest filled with tall trees. The air was cool, and the moon was bright. As he walked, he came to a clearing where a fire burned. Around the fire sat the spirits of his ancestors, his father, his grandfather, and others he barely remembered. His father's voice spoke. Kofi, your days on this earth are growing short. You must prepare. Who will guard your house, your treasures, your name? Kofi bowed low. I do not know, father. Then the spirit pointed toward a shadow behind him. When Kofi turned, he saw Amma standing there, holding a calabash filled with water. Her face was calm, her eyes shining like stars. The spirit said, this one has a clean heart. She will carry your name with honor. Trust her. Kofi woke with sweat on his brow. The dream felt more real than the waking world. He sat in silence until the cock crowed. From that moment, his mind was made up. Amma's destiny would no longer be as a servant in his house. Something greater was waiting for her. The morning after his dream, Kofi called Amma to sit before him. The sun was just rising, and the courtyard was quiet. Birds sang in the trees, and smoke rose gently from the kitchen fire. Amma, Kofi said slowly, his voice heavy with meaning, I have watched you for many moons. I have tested you in secret. You did not fail. Amma looked at him in surprise. Her hands trembled on her lap. Tested me, Elder? How? She asked. Kofi stroked his beard. The open safe, the pouch of cowries, the bracelet, the chest. You thought they were chance, but they were not. They were trials I placed before you. Amma's eyes widened. Her mouth opened, but no words came. She remembered each moment, her hunger, her fear, her choices. So it had all been a test. Kofi leaned forward. You proved your honesty. Even in hunger you shared. Even in temptation you turned away. That is why I say this. You are no longer just a servant in my house. You are now my daughter. Amma's eyes filled with tears. Her heart pounded. No one had ever spoken such words to her. She bowed low to the ground. Thank you, Elder. I will serve with all my strength. Kofi did not keep his decision quiet. The next week, he called the elders of the village to his compound. Goats were slaughtered, palm wine flowed, and drums beat in celebration. Before all, he stood and declared, this girl Amma has shown honesty greater than wealth. She has passed every trial I gave her. From today, she is not my servant, but my daughter. She will inherit my house when I am gone. The villagers gasped. Some clapped with joy. Others muttered with envy. Amma knelt before the gathering, her face lowered, her hands trembling. She never dreamed her life could change like this. The old women sang praise songs. Truth walks with her. The ancestors shine on her head. But in the corners of the gathering, jealous eyes burned with anger. Not everyone was happy. Among those jealous was a nephew of Kofi named Kwame. He had long hoped to inherit the elder's wealth. When he heard Kofi's words, his heart grew dark like storm clouds. He whispered to his friends, how can this girl, a servant, take what should be mine? Has Kofi lost his mind? They nodded, frowning. Maybe she has bewitched him. Maybe she is a trickster. Kwame clenched his fists. I will not sit quietly. I will find a way to remove her. From that day, Kwame watched Amma with sharp eyes. Every move she made, every word she spoke, he twisted into something evil. He whispered lies in the market. He told villagers, this girl is only pretending. Just wait, you will see her true face. But Amma continued her work, steady and calm. She did not fight gossip with gossip. She swept, cooked, fetched water, and cared for Kofi as before. Her silence became her shield. One evening, dark clouds gathered in the sky. The wind rose, shaking the trees. The villagers ran to tie down their roofs and bring in their animals. That night, rain poured like drums on the earth. Lightning flashed, thunder shook the ground. In the middle of the storm, Kwame came secretly to Kofi's house. He carried a stolen bracelet from the market. When no one was looking, he slipped into Amma's sleeping space and hid the bracelet beneath her mat. He smiled wickedly to himself. "Tomorrow," he whispered, "they will see her shame. She will be cast out, and all will return to me." Then he vanished into the rain, leaving the false proof behind. Amma slept soundly, not knowing that danger was crouching at her door. The storm raged on, and the night carried her into a new trial she did not expect. The storm ended at dawn. The village was wet, the ground soft with mud, and the air smelled of fresh earth. Amma rose early as always. She swept the courtyard, fetched water, and prepared porridge for Kofi. But just as she was cleaning her mat, a shout came from the gate. It was Kwame, Kofi's nephew, with two elders by his side. He stormed into the courtyard, his face full of anger. "Uncle," he cried, "today the truth is clear. This girl you trust has been stealing from you." Kofi frowned deeply. "What are you saying, Kwame?" Kwame pointed to Amma's room. "Search her mat. You will see what she hides." Amma's heart stopped. She looked from Kwame to Kofi, confused. "What is happening?" she whispered. The elders entered her room. They lifted her mat, and there it was, the golden bracelet. Gasps filled the air. Kwame shouted, "See, I told you. She fooled you with her quiet face, but she is a thief." Amma's eyes filled with tears. She shook her head. "No, I do not know how that came there. I never touched it." But whispers began to rise among the villagers who had gathered outside the gate. Could it be true? Was she only pretending all this time? Kofi stood still, his face unreadable. The courtyard was heavy with tension. Kofi raised his hand for silence. "Enough," he said, his voice firm. He looked at Amma, then at Kwame. "Amma, you say you did not take it. Kwame, you accuse her. The ancestors do not sleep. Truth will reveal itself." He called for the village priest, a man known for wisdom and justice. The priest arrived, carrying a calabash of water and kola nuts. He listened to both sides carefully. Then he said, "We will not settle this with shouting. We will call on the spirits to judge." He poured water into a wooden bowl and dropped the kola nuts. The nuts floated, then sank, then spun in circles. Everyone watched in silence. Finally, the priest spoke. "The spirits say this girl's hands are clean. This bracelet was planted." Gasps filled the air. All eyes turned to Kwame. His face went pale, but he forced a smile. "Priest, maybe you are mistaken." But the priest cut him off. "Do not play with truth. The spirits cannot be fooled. The thief is not Amma." Amma bowed her head, tears of relief flowing. Kofi's eyes burned as he looked at his nephew. "Kwame, you shamed this house. You tried to destroy an innocent girl. Why?" Kwame could not answer. The silence condemned him more than words. The elders gathered in a circle to decide Kwame's fate. They spoke in low tones, while the villagers waited outside the compound. At last, the oldest elder stood and said, "Kwame has lied against the innocent. He has tried to steal honor by deceit. Such a man cannot walk freely." They ordered Kwame to leave the village for a season. He would wander, carrying only a small bag of food. Until he repented, he could not return. When the decision was announced, Kwame's face twisted with anger. He spat on the ground. "This is not the end," he muttered. Then he turned and walked away, his shadow long in the setting sun. Amma watched silently, her heart heavy. Though she was relieved, she felt pity. Envy had eaten Kwame's heart, like fire eats dry grass. Kofi placed his hand on her shoulder. "Do not carry his shame. You stood firm. Truth has spoken for you." That night, the village gathered again at Kofi's compound. This time, there was no doubt in their voices. The priest himself stood and lifted his hands. "Amma," he said, "you were tested by hunger, by gold, by lies, and by false accusation. You did not fall. From today, you are a daughter not only of Kofi but of this village. May the ancestors bless you." The women ululated with joy. The drummers beat their drums. The children danced in the dust. Amma knelt before the fire, her face shining with tears. She whispered in her heart, "May my honesty remain, no matter what comes." Elder Kofi smiled at her, his eyes full of pride. He thought of his dream of the ancestors and knew it had come true. This girl was chosen, not by him, but by the spirits themselves. The night ended in songs and laughter. But Amma's journey was not yet complete. Her path still had more to reveal. The morning after the celebration, Amma woke to a different world. She was no longer just a helper sweeping the courtyard. She was now known across the village as the girl who had passed every test of truth. When she went to the stream to fetch water, women greeted her warmly. "Good morning, Amma," they said with smiles. Children followed her, clapping and singing small songs about her honesty. Even the old men at the marketplace nodded their heads as she passed. But Amma remained humble. She still swept the courtyard, still cooked for Kofi, still carried water on her head. She told herself, "Titles do not cook yam. A true heart must keep working." Kofi, however, began teaching her things she had never known. He showed her how to keep accounts of his trade, how to measure land, how to speak wisely in meetings. "You will need these skills," he told her. Amma listened carefully, storing each lesson in her heart. Seasons passed. The rains came and went. Amma grew wiser, and her respect in the village grew stronger. But far away, Kwame wandered with bitterness in his chest. He lived from hand to mouth, carrying his shame like a heavy stone. One night, he sat by a lonely fire and thought of his life. "Why did I waste my chance? Why did I let envy blind me?" he asked himself. He realized that Amma had only been honest, and it was his own greed that destroyed him. At last, with his heart softened, he returned to the village. His clothes were torn, his body thin. When people saw him, they whispered, "Kwame has returned. Will the elders forgive him?" Kwame went straight to Kofi's house. He knelt in the courtyard before Amma and the elder. "Forgive me," he said, his voice low. "I allowed envy to guide me. I tried to harm you, Amma. But now I see my wrong." Amma looked at him with calm eyes. Her heart did not burn with anger. She remembered the words of her mother. "When the river floods, it still gives water to the thirsty." She bowed her head. "I forgive you, Kwame. May you walk in truth from today." Kofi nodded slowly. "The past cannot be erased, but the future can be made new. Rise, Kwame. Learn from this." That year, the harvest was great. The yams were plenty, the millet was tall, and the palm trees gave sweet wine. The village prepared for the festival, when drums, dances, and laughter filled the air. Amma was given a special honor. The elders asked her to lead the dance of the maidens. She wore a new wrapper of bright colors, and beads were placed around her neck. When she stepped into the circle, the crowd cheered. She danced gracefully, her feet moving like flowing water, her smile shining like the sun. Children sang her name, and women clapped in rhythm. Even the hunters raised their horns in praise. But Amma's heart was not proud. She danced not for herself, but for the ancestors, thanking them for guiding her path. When the dance ended, she knelt by the fire and poured libation. "To the spirits who see in secret, thank you." Kofi watched her with joy. In that moment, he knew the village was safe in her hands. Amma had become more than a daughter. She was a pillar for the whole community. One evening, after the festival ended, Kofi called Amma to his side. His face was calm, but his eyes carried the weight of many years. "My daughter," he said softly, "my journey in this world is nearing its end. I feel the call of the ancestors." Amma's eyes filled with tears. "Do not say that, elder. You are strong." But Kofi smiled. "No one walks forever. But before I go, I must give you my last gift." He handed her a staff carved from Irako wood, smooth and shining. "This staff belonged to my father and his father before him. It is a sign of leadership. From today, you are the keeper of my house, my land, and my name. Guide the people with honesty, as you have always done." Amma held the staff in her hands, trembling. She bowed low. "I will honor you, elder. I will not fail." That night, the moon shone brightly over the compound. The villagers whispered that the time of change had come. Amma's journey was moving into a new chapter, one of greater responsibility. Not long after giving Amma the Irako staff, Elder Kofi grew weaker. He spent more time resting on his mat, his voice softer, his steps slower. Amma cared for him tenderly. She prepared his meals, massaged his hands, and sat by him in the evenings, listening to his stories. One quiet night, as the moon rose high, Kofi called Ama close. "My daughter," he whispered, "do not fear when I am gone. The ancestors walk with you. Remember what you have learned. Honesty shines brighter than gold." Amma held his hand tightly, tears running down her face. "I will remember, Elder. I will live by your words." Kofi smiled faintly. His eyes closed and his breath slowed. Like a candle that burns steadily until the end, he slipped away in peace. The drums beat slowly across the village. The people came together to mourn the elder, who had guided them with wisdom. But they also came to honor Amma, the daughter he had chosen. The priest declared, "Kofi walks now with the ancestors. His staff remains with Amma, who will guide us forward." From that day, Amma's life changed forever. She was no longer the quiet helper sweeping courtyards. She became a leader, trusted by young and old. When disputes rose in the market, Amma's words settled them. When the harvest was shared, her hands were fair. When strangers came to the village, her welcome was warm but wise. The people often said, "She guards the village the way she once guarded the elder's house, faithfully." Kwame, now humbled, stood by her side as a loyal supporter, helping her with trade and farming. The children of the village sang songs of her honesty, and mothers told her story by the fire to teach their daughters and sons. Amma never wore pride like a crown. She wore humility like cloth, simple but strong. And whenever she held the Irako staff, she remembered the tests she had faced, the open safe, the cowries, the hunger, the false accusation. Years later, when Amma grew old, people still spoke of her name with respect. They said, "Honesty lives longer than riches." Amma proved it.